So welcome to the Treasury Elite Entrepreneur Series. I would like to thank all our viewers and members for supporting this noble cause of Treasury Elite, whose main objective is networking, knowledge sharing, and mentoring. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abhishek Goenka, founder and CEO of IFA Global and Treasury Elite. We bring in one-stop treasury and FX solutions for companies across India over the last 17 years. And today we have Mr. Tim Draper, founder, Draper Associates. Tim is a
Great,
legend.
thanks for having me, Abhishek. Nice to see you.
Thanks for your time, Tim. So, well, Tim does not need any introduction, but as you know, he's a kind of legend in the world of venture capital and entrepreneurship. Investing, has been in his blood since the mid 1980s. He's built his fortune making early investments in companies like Hotmail, Skype, Baidu, Tesla, and SpaceX. He's a supporter and global thought leader for entrepreneurs everywhere, and is a leading spokesperson for Bitcoin and decentralization, having won the Bitcoin US Marshalls auctions in 2014 and invested in over 50 crypto companies and led investments in Coinbase, Ledger, Tezos, Bancor, and many others. Welcome, Tim, once again.
Great, thanks so much for having me. I also host Meet the Drapers, which is a show where the viewers can crowdfund, and I interview entrepreneurs like Shark Tank, but I'm a little nicer, maybe a little. And it's very popular in India. I think we have 12 million viewers there.
Awesome. So Tim, my first question, and I asked this question to a lot of global CEOs whom I talk, that, you have been in this journey for a pretty long time now, and when I talk to everyone, there's one common thread, which I could link with a lot of these global CEOs would be that they are just not doing this for the money. I want to ask, what keeps you excited every morning to get to work? Or if I may ask, what is your why?
So my initial purpose for living, I believe, was to spread venture capital and entrepreneurship around the world. I love what an entrepreneur can do. They take an idea and they make it real, and they transform an industry, change the world. They do all sorts of wonderful things. And even if they don't, they try, and human progress moves forward. And so that was my mission in life. And I felt as though when I was in Tanzania and I ran into a venture capitalist, I thought, I've kind of done it. But then Bitcoin showed up, and all of a sudden my mission, it continued to be spreading venture capital and entrepreneurship around the world to make it so those brilliant ideas would flourish around the world. But Bitcoin was, while the internet transformed some great industries and lowered barriers between countries, Bitcoin was going to make it so that commerce could go anywhere, and you could have a currency that was trusted everywhere, global, so cross-border, no problem. And then it's transparent, keeps perfect records, and we don't rely on a government, a fiat, to drive it, because as we all know, governments, sometimes they print money, sometimes they don't, sometimes they make the currency worthless, sometimes they don't, and it's a very difficult environment to operate in a lot of countries, because people can make a fortune in Argentina and then they lose it just to currency transformation. And so Bitcoin, the blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs have sort of opened my horizons to where the internet transformed communications, information, gaming, entertainment, media. The biggest industries in the world have really not changed much, but they're about to, because of these new technologies, because of Bitcoin and these others. And that is banking, commerce, finance, insurance, government, real estate. These are the biggest industries in the world. And it got me so excited that we were going to be able to do something to transform those industries. And as you transform industries, the world becomes wealthier. The people around you, there's more trust, there's more freedom around the world. And those are powerful vehicles for human improvement.
Excellent, excellent. Tim, I was reading about you and I came to know that your parents were very, very instrumental in making you independent. They always like you to explore the world. You know, one of the blogs said that they left you near a mountain and they came after a week and they asked you just to explore things. And you were on its
That
own.
was my mom. That was my mom. She used to just say, go explore. And I think it was her way of saying, get out of the house. And she did. She left me at the base of Mount Rainier with one friend. I was 14 years old. And a backpack with a week's worth of food in it, freeze-dried food. And she said, okay, you're here. We're going to meet you here in a week. And it was 67 miles away. And fortunately, the two of us, I mean, we got injured. All sorts of things happened to us on that trip. But we finally arrived in the rain in a, I feel as though my mother and his mother were sort of surprised to see us.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think, well, when you're going from boy to man, it's actually that freedom is very important. The ability to go out and make the mistakes you need to make, try new things. My mom was very wise. Either that or she just wanted me out of the house.
Right. So since you've been exploring right from, I think, age 14, 15, and you got into entrepreneurship and now in the process of meeting and, you know, funding various people, what was the biggest risk you took as an entrepreneur and some of the milestones and learnings from your entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, the risks I took were starting Draper Associates. That was a risk. Borrowing from the SBA, bringing on a partner and raising a fund, starting the Draper Venture Network, starting Draper University, I think was a big risk. Starting Meet the Drapers, the show. I think starting things is risky. You don't know whether the thing's going to work or not. And if you just keep your eye on the ball and just keep at it, eventually something good happens with it. And right. So I would say those are the big risks that I took. But it was all calculated risks. It was always, I would sort of look and see where there was a need. I'd look and see where I could expand, where I could try new things. And fortunately, many of them have worked out, and and I think most of them have worked out because I've had great faith in entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. Having that faith and trust in entrepreneurs makes a big difference. Like Draper University, it costs me a lot of money every year to keep that alive. But I've backed a few of the Draper University students, and one of them has paid for the whole school just because she sold her business. Well, she sold to somebody else, and then he sold the business, and it pretty much paid for all of the expenses I ever put into Draper University, and I'm hoping the same can happen with Meet the Drapers. So far, that's a labor of love too.
Correct. So, uh, what are your thoughts in the rise of the multiple unicorns, which is happening in India lately? Every next day, we are seeing a unicorn. I think the latest number was, I don't think, 71 this year or something. Uh, is it the abundant money printing which is happening, or the world is taken note of India's entrepreneurship and the phenomenal growth rate and digitization that we are seeing in India? Or is it the recent listing which has happened, which have been very, very successful, like Zomato, Nykaa, etc.? Have you been tracking this space in India?
I think there are two really great things that have happened in India. One is people are getting well educated. And the second is that the government allowed some freedom of movement and freedom of operating a business. The best example I have of where governments are allowing freedom rather than control, that's Korea. Korea, there was a war, and then it was separated by the demilitarized zone, and the South stayed separate from the North for 70 years. Still no change in the demilitarized zone. There's still a big wall there, barbed wire, electric fences, the whole thing. And so people don't move across. Well, North Korea was set up with government control. Government told everybody what to do, lots of regulations, lots of rules, lots of government told everybody what their job was, how they were to do it, all the things that they were supposed to do. And they're starving up there. And that's Marxist. It's Marxist, communist, socialist economy. Okay, so that's North Korea. South Korea is a capitalistic, free market democracy, open markets, open borders, and that 70 years has gone by now. The average South Korean now makes 460 times what the average North Korean makes in a year. And that's when adjusted for purchasing power. And the average South Korean is now 4 inches taller than the average North Korean. They're starving up there. And so when the government gets too overbearing, when the government starts laying on too many rules, too many restrictions, when they spread fear through an economy, the country stagnates because people are afraid to try things. When a government allows the freedom of movement, the freedom of operating a business, freedom of ownership, freedom of speech, when a government allows all those things, that's the beginning of something great. And that's happened in India. In India, I mean, I remember how poor India was, 30 years ago or something. And I go back every couple of years. And every time I go, I'm just amazed at the progress that the country has made and how well educated much of the population is, and how free and business oriented and entrepreneurial they are. It's an amazing country. And so I love going to India. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
So nice to hear that. And I'm sure all the prospective investors would take note of this, whoever will be listening to this, that yes, things have changed. Of course, the media talks about it, but I think investors like you are actually seeing it on the ground level. You're putting your money over there. I think that's phenomenal. And I think the same feeling even we get that the next 10 years is going to be extremely exciting for Indian entrepreneurs and Indian businesses. And if you go to Bangalore, or if you go to any of these young cities, I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I operate a venture fund called Draper Associate, but we also have something called the Draper Venture Network, and both Bloom Ventures and Iron Pillar Ventures are a part of that network. And it's great because I get to go and I get to visit with them and see all the entrepreneurs they've been backing, see the new best practices that they're employing, and seeing the incredible progress that's been made. And the valuations have started to creep up pretty high in India too.
Yeah.
It's an exciting place to be. So, and we're thrilled. We have a big following in India on Meet the Drapers, and we have a lot of Indian entrepreneurs that are doing some very interesting, creative, and dynamic things.
Right. Very interesting. So since I have to have this discussion with you regarding Bitcoin, India is in a situation right now where
I'm wearing the tie.
I saw your tweets, and most of the tweets, almost 90% of them, talk about Bitcoin and how bullish it is. Of course, you are invested across 50 countries, and personally, you feel very, very strongly about Bitcoin and its future, and the loss of face for the governments across the world. Now,
I don't think it's loss of face. I think it's just the opposite. The best governments are gaining face. The governments that are taking those big risks and saying, hey, let's make Bitcoin a national currency, or let's buy some Bitcoin or for our national treasury. You saw that when Japan said Bitcoin's a national currency, all of the entrepreneurs were leaving China and going to Japan because China was trying to command and control everybody, and Japan was allowing people to be free. When El Salvador said, hey, we're going to make it a national currency, and they took it seriously, and now you can buy McDonald's and Starbucks food for Bitcoin, they're taking a huge stride. When Malta said, hey, we're open for business for Bitcoin, they attracted one of the biggest Bitcoin companies in the world, Binance, to Malta, away from China. And so countries that try to control it or want their own currency to dominate or whatever, they're doing it at their own peril. So I am actually saying that, hey, governments that embrace Bitcoin gain face. Governments that try to control things, those are weak people. Those are people who have insecurities. They need to realize that the world is better when there's trust and there's freedom. Singapore was one of the poorest countries in the world, and Lee Kuan Yew came in there and he said, we're going to just build trust. He just built trust. Everybody was trustworthy. It's now one of the most trustworthy countries in the world, and it's one of the richest. So it went from one of the poorest to one of the richest countries in the world, just in 70 years of Lee Kuan Yew building that.
Correct.
So lose face is wrong. I actually think that governments have the opportunity to gain face. Imagine if the United States had said, we're going to ban the internet. If they had said that, they would have lost so much value. All that value, all those incredible businesses, all those jobs, all that incredible convenience, all of that knowledge, all of that, we would have lost all of that if they had said, hey, we're going to ban the internet. It will be even more extreme with Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, where the governments that are embracing it are going to be huge winners over the next 40 years. And the governments that are trying to control it are going to be very, very sorry.
I'm sure this few points that we discussed right now is a very, very hot topic right now in India because of the recent discussions happening at the government side. and in what form they want to regulate Bitcoin. And soon we're going to see some action on that front. But
Yeah, all they really need to do is think in terms of how do we allow businesses to operate in Bitcoin and tax the Bitcoin.
right.
That's all they need to do.
Finally, your thoughts and messages for the Indian entrepreneur community in India and the VC community in India.
Well, I think the VC community in India has done an outstanding job. I mean, with what we've seen at Bloom Ventures and Iron Pillar, they are cutting new turf. They're doing extraordinary things for the entrepreneurs, and we really appreciate all the work they do. The entrepreneurs in India tend to negotiate so hard for that first round of financing that sometimes they're disappointed that the next round's at a lower price. I would recommend that that if the money is available, not to over negotiate. That is a tendency of Indian entrepreneurs. I know they tend to overplay their hand. But there's something beautiful about that too. Being willing to, put it all out there on the line for this negotiation it can be very powerful for an entrepreneur. I just love the free thinking that's happening in India with the entrepreneurs. They're doing great. I don't think I'd have really much advice for them other than please your customer and delight your customer and see how you can spread your vision around the world. Figure out a good way of making your customer into your sales force.
Excellent, team. It was lovely talking to you, Tim. And first of all, thank you so much once again to take out time. And then in this current juncture of crypto, the current juncture of India's entrepreneurship growth, I think people like you who take the onus of developing these markets, I think that's phenomenal. And I wish you all the very best for all your ventures and Bitcoin. Specifically, that your vision about money get it credited before a fire actually happens, or just the fire actually happens, actually comes true. It was a very, very interesting idea that you broke. I definitely learned a lot from this discussion. And once again, I would like to wish all the very best to you and your entire team at Drapers and all your partners in
Terrific. India. Well, thank you very much. And if anybody needs to reach me, I'm Tim at draper.vc. I put it out there, but only if you need to reach me and you have a business plan, or maybe if you're an investor or whatever. But I don't want to see, people's life story and that sort of thing. I mean, I'd love to, but I don't have time to. That's so right. Just business plans and investors, we'd love to hear from.